Hi everybody, it's Steph here from V8 Professional, and my goodness, we've got a treat for you today. I've got the wonderful Rachel Guyat here from More Than Just a PA, and she's also the 2021 winner of UK Outstanding VA. So welcome, Rachel. Great to see you here.
Thank you very much. It's very nice to be here.
Oh, and obviously congratulations on the win.
Thank you.
That is
Thank you very much.
some achievement, really is.
Yeah, I was really pleased and probably a little bit shocked. I've just been speaking with somebody actually who said that I looked really nervous on screen just before they announced it, and I thought that I was keeping it together quite well. So apparently, obviously, I wasn't. And then I have no idea what I said when they said, "Would you like to say something?" So I think I just garbled something.
Well, I was listening in, and I thought you sounded very composed, and it was
Right. Good.
I mean, you were up against some really tough competition. You know, I'd looked into some of the other people that were finalists, and my goodness, that it was a challenge and a real achievement to come out as the winner.
Yeah, well, you know, all brilliant. And I suppose, you know, anybody who entered into the awards last year, you know, last year was a tough year. And so anybody that entered, I know it's corny to say, you know, everyone should be really pleased as to where they got to, but genuinely, it was a tough year. And I just think anybody that entered into it and took the time to sort of think about what they were doing and what they wanted to achieve and put themselves out there. You know, what a great thing to have done. And so, you know, everybody who were runners up and all of, you know, everybody who did it was brilliant. Really, really good.
Absolutely, yeah, definitely. And as you say, I mean, it was such a tough year. So I think to find the time and the energy to do it, and like you say, to put themselves out there, which I guess is, I mean, it's difficult for anybody to do, but I feel that certainly a lot of the virtual assistants I talk to, when we talk about awards and things like that, I think imposter syndrome is probably a pretty big thing for virtual assistants.
Yeah, it is because, you know, I've been doing this for 11 years. I don't know it all by any means. You know, I'm very good at the actual job that I do. I love working with my clients. Excuse me. But I don't know it all. I don't know all of the tech. And so yeah, of course there are times where I think, oh my goodness, should I admit that I don't know how to use that? Should I admit that I don't particularly like social media? You know, all of that sort of stuff. But actually that's the joy of this industry. It's such a supportive industry. The VAs are brilliant. You can always ask for help. You can always get support. And so I try and put my imposter syndrome sort of behind me. And just accept that we're all in the same boat. We're all trying to support people, and we're all doing a good job.
Absolutely. And is there a trick to that, to putting imposter syndrome behind you, and actually that whole thing about, you know, feel the fear and do it anyway, if you like? Is there a secret to doing that?
I'm not sure there's a secret, but I suppose my nature is to be very open, and literally to say, I don't know how to do that. You know, my strength is not in that bit, and to ask for support, to ask, and that is, you know, support from all sorts of different people. So that can be friends as to how to present yourself. It could be support from, you know, the mentors and the trainers, of which we have great mentors and trainers out there, asking them how to do things, and asking fellow VAs how to actually do something that is a skill or an expertise, or getting somebody in to help you with it. So I think it's all about, for me, sometimes I'm probably too open, but that's the way that I operate. I'd much rather be as open as I can, and ask questions and say, you know, I could do with some help in, and that sort of, I think that sort of breaks down barriers quite a lot of the time, and it means that you can work together well, and bring in support if you need it. So that's how I do it anyway.
Excellent. And that's a really interesting point, actually, because like you've just kind of said there, you know, you feel that it breaks down barriers, and it helps you work better. Um, I'm sure there'll be people listening to that thinking, well, surely admitting that you don't know something is more of a weakness or something you shouldn't be talking about. Um, so is that your experience then, I guess, that it does just make things easier?
I, there's no point me saying that I can do something if it's not in my comfort zone, it's not in my skill set, or it's not something I want to do.
Mhm,
There's absolutely no point me doing that. It's about having the confidence to say, um, it's about having confidence to ask for help.
mhm,
Not be afraid of doing that. As I said, we're very lucky. We have such a supportive industry. I think VAs, by their very nature of the job that they do, want to help people. Um, and I find that you can build relationships much easier with people when you are completely yourself. So I don't put on a front. There is no front to me. What you see is what you get. Um, and as I said, I will be completely honest and open about where I'm at, what's going on, where my comfort zones are, what my skills are, what I can do, what I can't do. And I don't see that as a weakness. I see that actually as a strength, as being able to say, this is what I'm great at. I need help with, and I'm talking sort of amongst the VAs here. Can somebody please help me with this? Because then you build up relationships with other VAs, and you know, a collective group of VAs is a strong force, and you know, you can do anything when you've got all of the VA support that I have access to. It's fantastic.
wonderful. Yeah, I completely agree with that. And we are very lucky, like you say, to have such a fantastically supportive network and
Yeah.
industry. Yeah, it's a wonderful thing. And I think it's fairly unique. I don't know of many other industries that work that way, really.
No, no, I don't either. But you know, and that's one of the reasons why I joined Joanne Manville with the Southwest VA collaboration group is that we both strongly feel that I wonder what the collective noun for a group of VAs is. We'll have to think about that. But you know, that a group of VAs together means you really can work together. You really can, you know, the collaboration, not competition, is
Mhm.
so strong. And it really is about finding strengths together as people to be able to then support clients better. You know, it can only be a good thing. You learn from each other, you can bounce ideas off each other. Um, yeah, so that can only be a good thing, surely.
Oh, well, I completely agree, absolutely. And if we think about the wider picture, I mean, certainly in the UK at the moment, my kind of thinking is there's more than enough work for all of us. There's still more
Absolutely.
business owners out there than there are VAs in the UK. Um, but also, if our ambition is to help business owners live better lives, grow bigger businesses, scale, that's only going to be great for everybody. It's going to create more jobs. It's going to improve the economy. That knock-on effect can only be a good thing.
Huge. Yeah,
Exactly.
absolutely. I agree. And you're right. You know that there are the VA industry right at the moment, probably very much like after the last recession, which is when I started. But right at the moment, people can see the benefits of virtual working, and so you know there is lots of work at the moment, and it's about putting yourself out there and finding that work. But there is definitely enough work to go round the increased number of VAs that we're seeing at the moment.
Yeah, I agree, absolutely. So tell me a little bit more about this collaboration then.
So the collaboration was actually founded by Joe, and it was literally a year ago. So we've had one face-to-face meeting, and you know, sadly, and then we went down into lockdown, and we had the face-to-face meeting. And as we were walking back to our cars, Joe said, "Come on, Rach, do you want to join me as co-host?" And of course, you know, it was something I'd also been thinking about, but Joe was quicker off the mark and got it set up. So thank goodness she did. And it's now a group that has about 70 members in it. It's the whole of the Southwest, and we define the Southwest based on the VA Awards Southwest as well. Um, and we've been meeting obviously virtually pretty much every 3 weeks, 3 or 4 weeks. And we have speakers in to talk about sort of soft skills and emotional stuff to help with that side of things, communication skills. presentation skills, networking skills. And then alongside that, we have free-for-all Q&As, which are always so interesting. And we do that based on two things. We do it for newbies, as anybody who's been in business for under 12 months, which of course at the moment is fantastic, and then a free-for-all for everybody. And then we also do technical skills as well. So we've had Cube come in and talk to us about all sorts of Microsoft 365, Office 365, sorry, tips and tricks. We've got someone talking to us about Trello. Yeah, and it goes on. So it's great. Again, we just get to meet so many interesting VAs who are at all different stages of their journey. And it's lovely to be able to help the industry. That's why we do it.
Wonderful, absolutely. It sounds like such a great network, and I think, you know, very much needed. I think it's probably quite easy as a virtual assistant to feel isolated sometimes.
Yeah.
So having something that's a little bit sort of more regional, I suppose, is wonderful. Particularly, I mean, for everybody, but particularly when you're starting out, it can be a lonely road.
Yeah, it can be. And I think that's probably what I found. As I said, I've been going since 2010, 2011, can't remember which anymore. But you know, so, and I have known VAs, I've been very lucky to have some really good VAs in this area, but we've never done a meetup. It's never happened. And so, you know, in 8 years, I didn't really have that. I knew lots of VAs, and I obviously, you know, I'm part of Amanda's group, and so obviously knew quite a few VAs through that, but I was never really able to have a sort of local support of VAs. And that's another reason why I thought it would be a good idea to join Jo and co-run it with her, because it does give a really good support.
Excellent. And so you touched on there, as well as the networking and the collaboration, you know, you bring in speakers and you offer training, I guess, in certain areas. On that topic of training, this was actually a question that came in from one of the members actually of the VA Pro network in the Facebook group, and they'd asked, firstly, did you do any training when you started your business? And then secondly, how important do you think training is to, you know, to running a VA business?
Yeah. So way back when, I did a PA diploma. So this was a long time ago. I think I was probably at the stage of life that I wasn't entirely sure what I was going to be doing with life, having played the violin for the whole of my life, suddenly realizing that wasn't going to be a career. So I did actually a 6-month diploma, and then started working as a PA, and then went through all sorts of different jobs. And then was made redundant. So I'm quite a sort of typical VA story, was made redundant. And then it was Carmen McDougall who was running VACT at the time. Yeah. And so I signed up to do what is now the VA Mastery course with her. And, you know, it's invaluable. You have someone who is talking you through step by step the things that you need to consider, the things that you need to get in place. And at that stage, it was things I hadn't thought about. I just thought that I could go out and you know, be a PA virtually. That was it. But there's a lot more to it than that. Of course, you have to have those skills, but you have to know how to run a business. What do you need to have in place to run a business? What are the legal aspects of things? How do I do XYZ? And so it was really useful for me at that stage to have someone who essentially sort of holds your hand through it. So yeah, I would highly recommend having some sort of training, you know, depending on what sort of level you want to go to. And then I've had one-to-one coaching in 2019. I think I had one-to-one coaching for the whole year throughout that, which again was another brilliant thing to do, because at that stage it was more about, you know, I'd obviously been running it for 6-7 years by that stage. So how was I going to expand it? What did I actually want from my business? This wasn't anymore just a case of looking after young children and bringing in some money anymore. It needed to be more than that for me. So it was more about getting it established properly. How was I going to grow it? What did I want to do? What were my goals for my business? And so again, I worked with Amanda Johnson and had one-to-one coaching with her, and she really sort of helped guide me through that process. So yeah, absolutely, training is definitely worth doing.
Excellent, excellent. Yeah, I agree with you on that. It's so important, and that's, I think, not just for virtual assistants. I think for anybody in business, actually, it's an important thing to do to continually, grow, develop, learn.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, the type of training that I had was definitely, skills training, but then it was more about sort of the mindset and the mentoring side of things as well. And I found it so useful, and still do actually, to have somebody who knows where I'm at, what I'm wanting to do, and somebody that I could just say, "Oh, this has happened. I've got some choices here. I don't know quite what I want to do," and so it's about having someone who's on your side, and who is able to talk you through each option, um, and then sort of work with you to come to the best conclusion. So that's invaluable.
Oh, I can imagine. Yeah, I imagine it is completely invaluable. So then, touching on that point of mindset, how important is that, I guess, to the role?
Hugely important, because there are times, of course, where and again, I think it's more about running a business, isn't it? I think you have to have a mindset when you run a business that there are going to be really, really tough days. There are going to be days where it doesn't go right. Again, we only need to look at the last year and use that as an example and say, well, nobody expected this to be happening. None of us knew that this was going to happen, and then suddenly we were all hit with it. So how do you deal with that? The first 2 or 3 days probably didn't deal with it particularly well. But you then have to sort of, you have to find it within your mindset to actually sort of bring yourself out of that state and really start thinking about how you're going to sort of progress things, resolve things, and move forward with things. It might be that you have to do things completely differently, but yeah, trying to have not a positive outlook, because sometimes it's really difficult to have a positive outlook on things, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, it's very easy to say that, but I think it's about just being open to other possibilities and opportunities that arise from, when it hits the fan. So yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I think you're right. You're right on that. And there is that whole thing, isn't there, about having a fixed mindset, or being more sort of an out of the box thinker. And it definitely makes it easier if you're able to just look at other opportunities and not get too.
Yeah, I think if you have a fixed mindset on things, then you'll end up sort of banging your head against a wall. And so it is difficult to do. I'm not saying it's easy at all, but if you're able to sort of flex with what's going on, keeping in mind what your goals are and where you want to get to, but it might be that path that you wanted to do has closed off, and so you're going to have to do a bit of a wiggly path to get round it. But it's that flexibility to allow you to get to where you want to get to.
Wonderful. And so for some of the people listening to this right now, they might be thinking, well, I don't necessarily have ambitions of growing a big business.
No.
Perhaps they're fairly new in the industry, that they've always worked as an employed PA or assistant, for
Yeah,
example. Um, I imagine that for some people they might be thinking, maybe that isn't necessary for me. All I want to do is be a PA.
perfect.
And you kind of touched on the point a little bit earlier, where you said you got to a point where you were no longer at home looking after small children, and it was more than just earning some money around the family.
Yeah.
Did you always have that mindset, or is that something that's come since your goals have changed and you've thought about growing the business?
Hmm. I, I think it's been an evolving thing. I remember when I set up I thought, I just want to be able to provide. I want to have my own. I want to be in control of what it is that I do. I don't want to. I don't want to be in the position of being able to be made redundant again. That was a really strong feeling, that one. I'd also had sort of 6 months of looking after my mother, who at that stage was very unwell, and I remember getting back. My mother then died, and I remember coming back into sort of working world and thinking, there's got to be more to life than, you know, than working for somebody else every single day. So that was my mindset at the beginning, was I want to be able to control my own life. I want to be able to bring in some money that is, you know, the equivalent of what that I would have been bringing in a full-time role employed. So that right at the beginning, that was my goal. That's all I wanted to do. And then of course we had children, and so it was more about keeping some money coming in whilst you're dealing with small children, and you know, the craziness that comes with that. And then again, I think probably my mindset changed after that. Again, you know, this is the joys of running a business, is that your mindset does change, your goals change all the time. And I knew that I wanted it to be something that I could do. I wanted to grow it into I use the words proper business. I don't mean that, but I wanted to grow it into a bigger business that would really sustain me and family life for the next however many years it needs to do that. And so for me, the way to do that was to grow it and to bring on. Luckily, when I went on maternity leave, I had 2 fantastic team members that joined me to help me with covering my maternity leave, and they stayed on with me, and that's how it started for me to grow the team. Yeah, so yeah,
It's
I think,
part of the process, definitely. Yeah. Yeah, I think I'd be inclined to agree with that. My own journey, sort of with my VA business, is pretty much the same. And it does. I mean, just like you grow in life, I suppose it's the same thing, isn't it?
yeah, but that doesn't mean that it's the right way of doing things for everybody. You know, that there are VAs who just want to work as associates. That's brilliant. If that's what that person wants to do, that's fantastic. There are some people who just want to be a VA with no team members at all, run their own business, and it just be them. That's brilliant. It's all about what's right for you and what you want from it. So you know, there's no comparison. It's got to be right for you.
Absolutely, and that is the beauty of this industry. You can do it any which way you want, and you know there are clients out there to suit every style of working. I think definitely.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So, tell me a little bit about your business then. So you said you've got a few associates now. How many do you have?
So we are on 15 team members now, and that has, as I said, that started really from maternity leave, and then it grew to, I would say, sort of 7 or 8 by this time last year. Slight wobble this time last year, and then it started to pick up again. Slight wobble, the joys of the pandemic, and then it's become very busy in the last 6 months, and so it's grown from 7 or 8 team members to 15 in the last 6, 7 months. So it has been, it's a roller coaster, and it's been a sort of hold on to your seats, and get through it.
That is incredible. I love to hear a good success story, and certainly out of the last 12 months, you've heard so many stories of people like having difficulty. So it's wonderful to hear that. But you've pretty much doubled in size then in the last 12 months.
Yes. Yeah. And as I said, it has been a roller coaster, and there have been times where that has brought its own stresses. Of course it has. But on the other hand, you know, as I said earlier, VAs at the moment have got a real opportunity. People are suddenly understand virtual working. You know, we've been banging on about this for the last 10 years, 11 years. This is what we do. This is what I've been doing. And now you understand virtual working. And actually what's interesting is that the majority of my clients for up until last year actually were primarily sole traders. So, you know, business coaches, consultants, trainers. And that's who we niched with, and that's who we worked with. My website was totally 100% targeted towards those people. It still is, but what we've found increase, and our biggest increase has been companies who have suddenly gone, hang on a moment, we can do this all virtually. This makes complete sense. And so we're getting CEOs saying we need EA support. So that's been a massive shift for us. So that's been a big shift.
Amazing. And so was that something that happened sort of by accident then, that somebody approached you and then you thought, hang on, we can do this?
Well, so we had a client, we had a couple of clients who were CEOs before the pandemic, and so I had started to realise that actually that was a way that it could go, and working. So we work. Some of the companies are actually quite large, sort of national companies, and we started to realise that CEOs, yes, they work in their own role, but then they're quite often non-exec directors, or they work for charities, or they're trustees, or they have crazy family lives, and all of that does that type of role. And so we realized that actually we could start to provide this sort of umbrella support, and really help with all areas of their life. And so that's what we started doing. And so actually I changed the website completely, so that we had one side of it being completely targeted towards business coaches, consultants, and providing sort of whole business management support for them. And then the other side of it having really, really good EAs that work with CEOs. So that role isn't about providing social media support. It's not about providing bookkeeping. It's not about doing all of the other sort of business management. It's about being really good at supporting one person in that role. They have other people within the company to do their social media. They're not interested in that. And yeah, as a result of that, we are now getting more and more CEOs who are looking for really good EAs. So yeah.
And so on that note, then I did have a little look at your website, and I saw that there was a line on there that said, all of your all or most of your team are experienced EAs or PAs. Are these people who were employed and have come to work with you, or are they EAs that have set up their VA business and then you found them and taken them on as associates?
It's normally that way. And so one of the things that I look for when I look for new team members is that they need to have had some sort of corporate experience. So it's really about understanding what makes companies work, what makes people within companies work and tick, and that sort of, that there are nuances, aren't there, within companies that you just need to have experienced to understand. And so that's one of the prerequisites for joining, being that I look for within team members, is that preferably sort of minimum of 10 years worth of corporate experience, because I know people have got that experience, and understanding of how to support CEOs. So yeah,
absolutely. And again, that just goes to show the diversity of the VA industry, because the thought is, of course, there'll be some people listening now that think, oh my goodness, that's me, I've got that. But there'll also be plenty of people here who haven't necessarily ever worked as a PA or an admin assistant, but they still make brilliant, virtual assistants.
Absolutely, they do it, and it's completely down to skill set. And so always think about what it is that you can offer. What is it what is your skill set? It might be that you're a fantastic graphic design, but that means be able to offer that sort of skill to sole traders, businesses that are looking to redo their website. So yeah, just because you haven't got 10 years worth of corporate experience, it doesn't mean that you're not going to be a great VA, because there are all sorts of different things that you can provide as a VA.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's and that's brilliant. I think I love the diversity within the industry.
Yeah.
Okay then, so let's see what other questions we've got for you here. Let's see the ones that have come in from the network. So we had a question here. What do you believe makes you stand out as an award-winning VA?
I suppose it's high support that we provide, and so, and this actually comes down to the name. So more than just a PA, we're not just, we're not. When I work with my clients, I don't, and I'm not saying that PAs do this, but it's not about sort of sitting waiting for work to come in. It's not about sitting waiting for a task to come in. It's about working with our clients and building that relationship so that I know as soon as I have a Zoom call with a client where they're at, what mood they're in, what's going on for them, what's working well, because you can see it, you can hear it in the tone of voice, because I spend my time building the relationship with the client, and that's what makes it work for us. And I say this to my team members as well. It's about, if you can't communicate with the client, it's not going to work. It's never going to work. You have to be completely honest with them. You have to encourage them to be completely honest with you. And if you've got that, you can build the trust. And then once you get the trust, you can build the working relationship. And once you can do that, then you can start working out what they need, how they need it. And so it's for me, it's all about building those foundations with clients and then building on it so that you can provide them with the service that they need, or that they didn't even think they needed. And it's lovely when I talk with a client and they'll be saying, oh, it's been really tricky this week, or we've really struggled with this. And I'm able to say, well, why don't you let me? We could do that. One of the team members could help with that, and you can see their faces light up. You can do that? Really? Could I? You mean I could give that? I don't have to worry about that anymore? And it's about looking at the whole of the business and looking at the client as a whole. Not just their work. What else is going on for them? Where else can you support them? That's always.
That's a really, really fantastic insight. I think people will find that really interesting, particularly if you're just starting out. I think, and this kind of comes down to sort of the confidence thing we were talking about earlier, isn't it? Because were you always that way, or is that something that you've also kind of grown into the more confident you get?
I think it's something you learn, definitely. Some people are naturally much more confident than others. I'm not hugely confident. It's it was something that I struggled with quite a lot. But I know that I'm good at supporting my clients. I know that, and so what I can do as a result of knowing that is actually talk to them as humans, not as almost not as client VA. It's talking to somebody as someone who's sitting in front of you saying, I really don't know how to run my business. I'm really struggling with this. And so it's having that confidence to just ask them questions and just probe a little bit and encourage them to have that honesty with you, so that you can then suggest ways of helping to support them. So answering your question, I think the confidence does come with time. It's not something that's, unless you're naturally confident and able to do that, I think it takes a bit of time to sort of get used to asking those questions.
100%. And it is one of those things you've just got to do, isn't it? And the more you do it, the easier it gets.
Yes, exactly.
I'm definitely with you on that one. In my business now, I know, just like you say, you can look at a client and just know what they're thinking before they've even opened their mouth. But that definitely, it's a learned skill, that one, isn't it? Okay, so thinking then to the awards, I'm curious to know, have there been any opportunities that have come from winning this award? Because I think also you're a bit of a serial award winner, aren't you? This isn't the first one that you've got.
Well, so I wouldn't put it as being a serial award winner. No. So I was lucky enough to win the Newcomer Award, and that was in 2012. So that was the first, that was the award. And then was runner-up for Southwest, I think, in 2015. And then, so last year obviously went through the awards stages. So Southwest, England, and then obviously this one. So no, I was really, really pleased with it. But have any opportunity. I mean, doing this with you is lovely. I wouldn't have got to have done this normally, but it's interesting, isn't it? I think by just putting myself out there, you get we have had more inquiries which have converted, and it's a really good thing to be able to quietly say, I'm not a big shouter of it, but I, will quietly say, this is, this is proof of what we can do actually. And I think that's what entering these awards does, is that it gives you a backup to really just show that actually you're committed to what it is that you're doing, and it gives you that proof.
Mhm. And yeah, absolutely, it does for sure. And like you say, it's a great tool, marketing tool, to be able to say I'm an award-winning virtual assistant, and it is fantastic validation for for how great you are. So for the virtual assistants listening right now, thinking, oh, I'd love to win an award, but I'd never win, or there's no point me trying. Have you got any sort of words of encouragement for them, or any reasons to why it might be a good idea?
I would just say, just do it. Absolutely, just do it. Put yourself out there and do it, because what the actual process does is it makes you evaluate where you are, what it is that you want to be doing over the next 12 months. It really makes you think about whether you have everything in place that's needed to be a sort of up and running VA. And I think just the actual process of putting yourself out there is a really good thing. You might not want to do that, and it might make you feel really uncomfortable, but it can only be a positive thing.
Mhm.
It, it really makes you stop and think about where you're at and what you want to achieve, and write it down. As soon as you've written all of this down, so I'll go back, I'll look at my awards entry and say, okay, so this is something I said I was going to be doing over the next 12 months. You better get on and do it.
Yeah.
It really is that sort of process of writing. I mean, you don't have to do it in an awards entry. You could have your goals, and you could review your goals and make sure that you have, that you're doing your goals. But it's for me, it's the process of putting yourself out there, and then actually having people look at that and say, right, okay, she's really serious about what she's doing.
Mhm.
And that's really important.
Absolutely, it is for sure. And that's a really interesting point then. So it's, I guess, I mean, it's the taking part that counts and all of that. But you're right. I think by going through that process, it's going to encourage you or help you to look at areas of the business, how it functions, where it could be improved, I suppose,
Yeah,
which can only be a good thing.
yeah, absolutely. And and I get that it can be disappointing if it doesn't go any further than that. But I think just that very act of, I'll keep saying it, putting yourself out there, means that you are opening yourself up to opportunities, and that's for me is a great way of progressing.
Fantastic. Yeah, great words of encouragement there. And I
Do it,
completely agree with you.
definitely do it.
Yeah, wonderful. Um, let's have a look. So I guess we're kind of coming to the end now. I've got so many questions here that I want to ask you. Let's have a little look. So I'd love to know about sort of, because obviously you have grown your business from just yourself to now a team of 15. Um, what have you got any specific sort of tools or techniques that you use for growing or marketing your business?
Sorry, you cut out ever so slightly then. We're having the joy of Zoom. Would you just be able to ask me that again?
Yeah, of course. So what techniques or tools do you use to grow and to market your business?
So for me, the most effective way of growing my business has been word of mouth. And it really has, the whole of my growth has been sort of an organic growth based on that. Right at the beginning, again, I had to take a very deep breath and go out and network, which of course, I didn't particularly want to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and go and have breakfast in a room of people that I didn't know, but I did it because I knew that that was going to be the way that I would find my first clients, and really sort of get my name out there just in the local area, but that's what I needed to do. And so I still do, when face-to-face networking allows, I still do that. I still try and go out sort of once a month. Just it again, it's about putting yourself out there, and talking to people, finding out about them. Networking isn't about me saying what I do, it's about me finding out what the person in front of me does. Hopefully then they will then ask me those questions back, and it's all about building relationships, so that you're there in their mind when somebody asks them about a VA. So networking isn't about selling, it's about building relationships. So yeah, so and then being honest with my, I speak with my clients all the time and say, we've got this great team member who started. Do you know anybody who might be interested in someone who needs social media support? Do you know someone who might be interested in bookkeeping, or who needs bookkeeping support? And again, honesty. So if I'm honest with my clients and open with them, then quite often they'll do that really hard bit of work for me, because they talk to people that they work with. So yeah.
That's wonderful. And you know what? I think this is such a common theme. I speak to so many virtual assistants who say the same thing, that it is about communication, building relationships, and
All the
word
time.
is
Yeah.
a big thing for us. And I think particularly because we work so closely with our clients, actually, getting a referral is is worth so much more, because you want somebody that you can trust if you're going to have them working that closely with you.
Exactly. In addition to that, I will, I've alluded to the fact that I'm social media, and it's not my favorite thing. It's not a natural thing to do, but I will do it because I know that it's important. I don't do it nearly as much as perhaps I should, or certainly, that's I don't do it as much as other VAs do, but I will do it to a level that is comfortable for me, that I feel okay about, and so I just keep things ticking over there, so that it's all, so that people see that going on, but without it being uncomfortable for me, actually. But that's just me and social media.
Yeah, or just uncomfortable enough.
Just,
I,
yeah.
I'm kind of I mean, that's fabulous insight. But I'm definitely kind of getting this feeling from you about it is about putting yourself out of your comfort zone a little bit. You've got to do the things that you find a little bit difficult, and if it feels uncomfortable, perhaps don't shy away from it, because they might be the things that are going to help you the most.
Yes and no. So there are definitely times where you do have to put yourself out there and really just take that deep breath and do it. Because if you don't do it and you want to progress in your business, and you want your business to grow in whatever form that is, it won't do that unless you put yourself out of your comfort zone. However, I would also say there is massive value in asking for help and getting support with those sorts of things as well. So for me, I am not a natural writer. I don't enjoy writing. It's not something that comes easily to me. So I have a fantastic copywriter who will write my blogs for me, because why would I do it? The benefit, we're VAs, right? So we should be talking about the benefits of outsourcing. So I will get somebody to help me with that side of things, and to help me with the marketing side of things, because that's what they're good at. They know me really, really well. They can help me with that. I don't like doing it.
Excellent. I love that, and that is so important. I think sometimes we're the last to take our own advice, aren't we? When it comes to things like delegating. So I think that's great advice. People
Yeah.
definitely need to hear. Okay, right. A couple more questions. Let's have a little look. What haven't we asked you about? So, what has been the most difficult thing about growing your business?
Um, it's been growing the team. That has hands down been the hardest side of things, because I'm very, very specific about who I want to work with, and who I want to have represent my business, me and my business. So that it's a tricky process. And actually, when you're, am I a control freak? Possibly. Possibly. So how do I, so it's about, so I have got to let go of how I want things to be represented, you know. So there are definite things that I do that represent me and my business, and that's how I want my team members to be. But I also have to recognize that people have their own working styles, that will be very different to mine. That doesn't mean that that's wrong, but sometimes I have to let go of that. So,
and you're absolutely right, for sure. I can imagine there'll be a few people listening to that just thinking like, oh my God, that sounds scary.
yeah,
But you're right, if that's what you want to do and if you want to grow the team,
yeah,
part of it.
yeah, absolutely. And you know, trusting other people to represent your business, it takes that massive leap of faith to do that. But that's, again, that's where I come down to communication, talking with my team members, making sure that they have the same values as me. How do they present themselves? How do they do the work? What expectations do they set? How do they deal with certain scenarios? And then that really gives me that sort of indication as to whether they have the right values to be with me on the team.
Excellent, excellent advice, definitely. And you're right, it comes down to that communication, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And I'm loving this flow of this the openness and the honesty.
Yeah.
Definitely, in my experience, makes it so much easier to have those conversations, on both ends as well. I mean, sometimes the relationship doesn't work out and you have to let associates go. I know I've had to do that in the past.
Absolutely, and there's nothing wrong with that. You know that there will be times where you're just not the right fit. I'm not the right fit. You know, my open style might not work with some people. That's fine. That's absolutely fine. Yeah, it's about not taking that bit sort of personally.
Absolutely.
Part of it.
Oh yeah, definitely. Great insights indeed. Okay then, so one very last question. If you could offer one piece of advice to the virtual assistant listening today, in terms of, you know, running, growing their business, getting started, what would it be?
Just do it.
Love it.
Just start. Just start. I think there's a big thing sometimes about hiding behind training. I haven't got this. I haven't, you know, sometimes you need to take that step again, put yourself out there, just start doing it. And ask for help, ask for support, use the VA community to really sort of rally behind you, because they will do that. We will do that. And you just need to start. If you're completely new, just start doing it. Start talking about what you're doing, talk to everybody that you know, and just do it.
Excellent. I love that. Brilliant, brilliant advice. Well, Rachel, thank you so much. I really enjoyed this. This has been a fantastic conversation. There might be some people listening who are thinking, goodness me, I really need to work with this woman, or potentially, you know, potential associates and things like that. So if people want to get in touch with you, how can they do that?
They can do that on my website, so www.morethanjustapa.co.uk. There are, you know, book an exploration call with me there, or there's a join the team button that you can fill in the form, and that will come through to me. So yeah, I would love to talk to people. That's part of the job that I enjoy doing.
Excellent. I love it. Well, there we have it. The wonderful Rachel Guyat. Thank you so much for your time today, and congratulations again on your award.
Thank you very much.
And yeah, we'll speak to you soon.
Absolutely. Thank you.